Hello and welcome to our discussion of the case study Richcon Steel. Richcon Steel was a medium-sized steel distributor and the oldest continually operating business in Kansas City, USA. Marty Sawyer was the president of Richcon Steel. In January 1997, she had to decide whether her company should continue using the new information system. The new system was implemented just a month before. Prior to switching to the new system, the company had been working with the same legacy system for over 20 years. This system had kept track of the company's account and inventory balances. However, this system was not able to generate many other types of useful information. This information included order status or historical data that could be analyzed to uncover trends. In addition, at the end of its Richcon tenure, the legacy system broke down so often. The system outages had become a regular event at the company. On top of all these problems, the legacy system was so old that parts and services for the system were scarce. Richcon was often forced to embark on scavenger hunts just to maintain the system. In 1995, Sawyer started a search for replacing the legacy system. During this effort, she learned that the company's IT requirements were not simple. For example, inventory tracking required some highly specialized IT functionality. In 1996, Sawyer ultimately chose to purchase and implement software made by a vendor specializing in software for Richcon's industry. Before making a decision, Sawyer had visited several of the vendor's customers. These customers allowed Sawyer to assess the capabilities of the software firsthand. Sawyer herself led the effort to implement the new system. During the implementation, she delegated many key operational responsibilities to other management. These responsibilities included overseeing pressing current labor issues and managing Richcon's slowing sales. The system went live at Richcon in December. December was typically the company's slowest month. By January 1997, the implementation of the new system had clearly gone wrong. The problems were so widespread that it was initially difficult to gauge whether the problems were due to software deficiencies, or whether Richcon's employees lacked the requisite skills to operate the system effectively. Richcon was now in a position where they could not account for their activities. For example, there was no accurate information about quantities of materials ordered or received, accounts paid or past due, or inventory balances. The old system had provided all of this information. Now the critical question for Marty Sawyer was that: should Richcon go back to this system, or should it continue to try to work with its new one? At the time of the case, Sawyer must decide if and how to pull the plug on the new system. To do this, Sawyer must try to identify the causes of the problems. Sawyer was not sure whether the new software is somehow faulty, whether the vendor failed to customize the system correctly, whether the employees were not trained enough, whether employee training could make a difference, and if so, what should be the amount of training need. Or all of these issues combined were responsible for the system failure. Following are the teaching objectives of the case study. 1. To familiarize students with the concepts of IT obsolescence and maintenance. 2. To introduce the idea of organizational readiness for IT. 3. To highlight that IT remains in many respects a black box where it is often difficult to identify the sources of problems. 4. To show the serious consequences of IT implementation failure. Hardware wholesaler. Richcon was the oldest business in Kansas City, founded in 1857. Company was established as a wholesaler by the end of the 19th century. Company exploited this recognition by affixing a Richcon logo to many of its products. See Figure A for a modern version of this logo. Richcon was focused almost entirely on distributing hardware, and did no manufacturing or processing beyond cutting sheet metal. Richcon sold direct to the users, that is fabricators and manufacturers. Steel Service Center. As a service center, Richcon held raw material inventory in the form of steel sheets, plates, beams, bars, pipe, and tubing from a number of producers. Customers, including fabricators and equipment manufacturers, ordered combinations of these materials from Richcon instead of dealing with several separate steel makers. In addition to acting as a consolidator, Richcon also processed pieces of steel for its customers, cutting and bending them as required. Steel Service Center. As a service center, Richcon grew steadily and formed close relations with a number of customers in the area. The company developed a reputation for excellent service and responsiveness. Richcon also became known for its thrift. Sawyer bought much of the firm's shop floor machinery at auctions held after other service centers went out of business. Once in place, a piece of equipment was typically used as long as it was serviceable. In the 1970s, Sawyer and Richcon decided to develop particularly deep expertise in steel rolling. Steel rolling was an operation of bending beams into desired configurations. Margins for rolling were comparatively high, and there were a few other firms in the area with advanced rolling capabilities. In 1996, the company purchased a number of rolling machines, including the Roundo. Roundo was a press that was capable of bending into a circle the largest steel beams made. The Roundo was the largest machine of its kind in the world. The cost of a Roundo was $1 million. Roundo was the most expensive piece of fabrication equipment owned by Richcon. By the mid-1990s, Richcon employed 140 people and had revenues between $25 and $50 million. Company got a new leader in 1994, Marty Sawyer, Sam's daughter. She had come to Richcon in the mid-1980s, and had worked in purchasing, marketing, and operations, the legacy environment. Marty Sawyer had also worked on the company's information systems. She strongly felt that they were outdated and in need of replacement. She considered replacing this legacy environment to be her major challenge as Richcon's president. The company used in 1994 the financial and inventory management software that ran on two separate IBM System 3 computers. The software running on these computers had been largely written over the years by Richcon. The programming language used by the System 3 was an obscure one. In 1994, Marty Sawyer did not know of anyone outside the company who could still write code in it. These systems did not have the ability to keep track of orders. Unlike most companies, however, Richcon in 1994 was still writing customer orders, purchase orders, and work orders by hand. Sawyer described the situation as follows. Orders were handwritten from beginning to billing. At the time the salesman took the order, it was handwritten on a work order type form. That was a 5-part form and it was broken down for order fillings. That form traveled around the company from the time the order was taken until it was billed. And it was billed in a batch key punch environment. Marty Sawyer considered processes like this inefficient and unreliable. However, there was a more fundamental concern. It was virtually impossible to obtain useful historical information about the company's activities. The System 3 did not include a database. As such, each data extract required custom programming that could take months. The only alternative was to go through stacks of paper orders each time information was needed. However, this alternative was laborious. As a result, there was no effective way for anyone at Richcon to analyze trends over time in sales, inventory usage, scrap rates, or other quantities of interest. Keeping the System 3 computers up and running was also a challenge. Replacement disk drives, terminals, and other hardware for a 1969 computer were very difficult to find by 1994, and Richcon eventually resorted to scavenging. IBM was not making parts anymore. Richcon cannibalized old machines that they could pick up. They developed a warehouse of these old machines. When they finally scrapped that over there, Richcon estimated they had at original cost something like $32 million worth of computers in the warehouse. They had 70 or 80 machines over there, just to keep theirs working. Richcon sold them for scrap for $625. These spare parts were crucial. Marty Sawyer estimated that in the mid-90s the computers would, on average, go down once a month for several hours, or even days, until the problem could be diagnosed and replacement hardware installed. In-house development. In the early 90s, Richcon had attempted to write its own software to replace the System 3s and the applications they ran. The company had bought an accounting package and AT&T hardware running the Unix operating system. After buying this purchase, Richcon started making extensive modifications to the new software package. Marty Sawyer had been in charge of this effort. By the end of 1993, Richcon realized it was not going to be successful. Ricoh decided to pull the plug on it and go out and buy the integrated software package. In 1995, Richcon began to look for an off-the-shelf software package. Over a period of several months, she investigated approximately half a dozen packages. All these packages ran on the Unix operating system and were written for the metal industry. The company stuck with Unix operating system so that it could continue to use the AT&T hardware purchased earlier. Sawyer felt she had to use software written specifically for the metal industry. This was because more general logistics and distribution systems could not handle the unique requirements of a steel service center like Richcon. These requirements included 1. Multiple units of measure. It was possible that the same piece of steel stock could be priced in several different ways, for example by length, by weight, or by quantity. Software written for the metal industry typically had this ability, but more general systems did not. 2. Remnants. Very often, customers wanted only a section of a steel sheet or a beam. After cutting off the required section, the rest of the stock would be returned to inventory. Richcon wanted to be able to track these three-dimensional remnants, or REMs, on a piece-by-piece basis. Richcon Steel could then use these remnants to satisfy other orders. 3. Certifications. Many types of steel provided by the manufacturer were accompanied by certifications, or certs. These certs certified the mechanical and chemical properties of steel. When customers placed orders for materials, they often also wanted these certs. Richcon wanted to be able to store certs in their information system so they could print and deliver them as part of an order's paperwork. When investigating candidate systems, Sawyer asked many questions to determine if a package could meet these requirements. She also asked more general questions, on issues such as 1. How an application calculated when it was time to order new materials. 2. Whether application could handle intercompany inventory transfers. The systems that looked promising were demonstrated at Richcon. Marty Sawyer made several visits to see these packages in operation at other companies. Sawyer found that no package she investigated could completely satisfy all requirements. However, she found one commercially available application that, in her opinion, came close. This application came from an established vendor. This application ran on Unix and satisfied many of the unique requirements of the steel industry. In addition, she was impressed with order entry capabilities of the application. She visited several sites where the application was installed. Sawyer became convinced that the vendor was not just selling vaporware. The vendor was willing to sell its software without an accompanying maintenance contract. Sawyer felt that this would save money. The vendor also indicated that it would be able to accommodate any requests to modify the software. Richcon selected this application to completely replace its legacy systems. Richcon began implementation activities of this application in late 1995. Richcon did not hire an external consultant to help with the implementation project. Instead, RichCon relied on the vendor's implementation support resources. The project consumed a great deal of Sawyer's attention. RichCon did not attempt to write a great deal of custom code, or modifications to the standard software. Sawyer's time was taken up by many activities such as 1. Understanding the software's capabilities. 2. Configuring it to match the way RichCon did business. 3. Populating its databases with information on existing inventory, customers, and suppliers. 4. Overseeing training of the employees. Sawyer felt that training was particularly important. This was because many users of the new software had no experience with modern information systems, or even personal computers, also called PCs. They would thus require a great deal of preparation on 1. How to use the new system. 2. How to use the new hardware. 3. How their jobs would change once the new system was in place. Sawyer was unhappy with the training resources provided by the software vendor. Sawyer was also surprised that the vendor did not seem to have a standard methodology for implementing its system at a customer. She expected that the software vendor's employees would ask an established set of questions about how RichCon did business. She expected that the vendor's team would use the answers to configure the software, recommend business process changes, or both. Instead, she felt that personnel from the vendor waited to be asked questions about how to use the software. Sawyer did not feel that this was an effective approach. However, she thought that it might be because the emphasis of the software vendor was its product and not the implementation. Marty Sawyer became deeply involved with the project. At the same time, she was settling into her role as company president. By the end of the implementation, she estimated that she was spending 75% of her time on the implementation project of the new system. This meant that she had to rely heavily on other people to manage much of the company's operations. Note that some of these people were newly hired. During the implementation project, RichCon faced various issues such as 1. A new management team. 2. Very little computer expertise within the company. 3. An ongoing union problem. 4. Setting up the rolling division to house the new Roundo recently purchased. 5. Dropping sales. Finally, in December of 1996, RichCon went live with the new system. RichCon began to use it to track orders from customers, purchases of raw materials, and inventory. RichCon faced many problems after they went live with the new system. Sawyer described it as follows. I didn't feel like we were completely ready, but it was kind of like if we don't turn it on now, we'll never get it on. December is a slow month. And I was really scared about this old hardware. I needed to get off of it and I thought this software would work. Also, we knew we would take a complete physical inventory a month later. I said, well, if we screw it up, we're going to do an inventory a month later. Problems with the new system. Symptoms. After the week was over, RichCon knew they had some major problems because they couldn't tie the system. They were unable to reconcile the billing records. After 2 weeks, the shop wasn't getting their paperwork. To take care of customers, shop started to ship orders on hand paperwork. Probably not half of the shipments over the first few weeks went out on system-generated paperwork. The rest of the shipments were not reconciled with the new software. RichCon people had to use the system to get the paperwork. Customers became upset. Despite many efforts, RichCon people were not able to generate a lot of the shop paperwork from the new software. The problem was by the time RichCon realized they had this problem, they had a month of hand paperwork. By the end of the year, it was a disaster. RichCon had to take year-end inventory and it seems everything was going wrong. They were facing many issues including 1. Double shipping. 2. Double invoicing. 3. No invoicing. 4. No shipping. RichCon people were shipping on hand paperwork. When the paperwork from the software finally came out, they shipped the order again. In many cases, they thought that they lost an order and then sales desk again entered the order in the system. It was a vicious cycle, and after the first 30 days, it was unbelievably bad. RichCon was unable to get orders out. The customers were getting wrong products and incorrect bills. RichCon was unable to deliver the orders on time. RichCon was losing back orders. Sales staff was not receiving the correct information about inventory. As a result, they sold some materials to the customer, but when they checked in the store, these materials were not available. It also happened that sales staff denied customer order of some materials despite the fact that these materials were available in the inventory. There was a bunch of remnants available, but the sales department was unaware of it. As a result, there was just dead inventory sitting in the store. In some cases, RichCon bought more materials not knowing that they already had these materials in the inventory. RichCon was unable to match customer invoices with the initial paperwork. As a result, they did not know how much steel went out and never got billed. Marty Sawyer was extremely worried about all of these problems. She was even more troubled because she couldn't be sure what was causing these problems. She didn't know whether RichCon's constant difficulties were due to 1. Faults in the software. 2. Configuration mistakes made during implementation. 3. Misuse or non-use of the system. 4. A combination of these three. Other people in the company were also having trouble identifying the source of RichCon's troubles. Depending on their jobs and their interactions with the new system, they saw different problems. Daryl Russell, the vice president of operations, had worked at several other companies before coming to RichCon. Russell had extensive experience with other information systems. He felt that some of the logic in the system was flawed. He described the situation as follows. With an MRP system, if you're manufacturing, you need to purchase all of the parts and pieces and have them available in inventory before you send your paperwork to the shop floor, to actually assemble the order. So, it doesn't make any sense to send out all of your paperwork until you have all of the pieces there to assemble it. But we're not really a manufacturer, we're a distributor, and we could, out of 10 items, ship 8. And our customers would allow us to ship 8, and back order the other 2. A pretty standard way of doing business. But we couldn't the system to let us do that. We couldn't get the first 8 out because it held everything because the other 2 weren't here. The system would not recognize the fact that you could ship before you have all the items. Donna Ellers, the credit manager, was a long-time RichCon employee. She was comfortable with the information systems and procedures in place within her department prior to the implementation. She saw that the new system significantly affected the way people did their jobs. She felt that many had become overwhelmed by the changes. She described the situation as follows. What I saw were the people problems. We were not prepared at all. We were not trained. We were not mentally prepared, and we were not emotionally prepared as a company when we went to the new system. And so, when we finally plugged in, we were in shock, because nothing went well. Not order entry, not operations, not accounts receivable, not anything. No one had ever really been involved in implementing an online order entry system, or using one. By January of 1997, RichCon was in the middle of a crisis. Looking back on that time, Sam Sawyer recalled. That was the most difficult time since I've been with the company. There was no other crisis in the economy or in the operations of the place that ranks with it in terms of how bad it hurt us. And the economy was pretty good, so we could have been selling a lot of steel. We should have been coining money, and instead we were losing it. Sam and Marty Sawyer had to decide what to do. 1. Should RichCon continue to use the new system and attempt to identify what was causing the problems? 2. What if they couldn't, and nothing got better? 3. Should they pull the plug immediately, and go back to their previous way of doing business? 4. If so, What would happen when the System 3 finally gave out? 5. And even if it continued to run, how much was RichCon forsaking by not having better information about the company's operations? 6. How large a handicap were their current primitive information systems? 7. How large a handicap could they become? The case analysis consists of the following. 1. IT obsolescence and maintenance. 2. Functionality lacking in outdated information systems. 3. The implementation process. 4. Organizational readiness for more IT. 5. Responsibility. 6. Aftermath, hardware. Computers break down and so need to be maintained. They rapidly become outplaced by later generations and so become obsolete. An old computer is not only slow, it also becomes increasingly likely to break down as it ages. This is because of simple wear and tear on its moving parts. Furthermore, it becomes harder and harder over time to find parts to fix an old computer because spare parts are no longer being made. RichCon at the time of the case finds itself in an extreme version of this situation, as Sam Sawyer describes on page 4 of the case. Software. Real-world software do not function perfectly. They need to be maintained by humans who have experience with their structure and bugs. Even a simple information system like the one in use at the start of the RichCon case is likely to require periodic human intervention to keep it running smoothly. In addition, software can become obsolete for several reasons. First, the hardware that it runs can wear out and require replacement. It can be difficult or impossible to port the software over to a new physical system. Second, tasks accomplished by the software, or its functionality, can become unnecessary because of business processes change. Finally, and most commonly, an application's functionality can be incorporated within another piece of software that also does other, more useful things. In RichCon's case, the simple inventory tracking capabilities of their existing system are also present within more modern applications. These applications also do important tasks like managing customer orders that the previous RichCon system cannot match. Note that RichCon's original information system could keep track of balances, of inventory, in accounts, etc. However, this system had no concept of an order that exists on the system and stays open until it is satisfied. Therefore, this system was unable to generate such information as 1. Open orders at a point in time. 2. Trends in orders, by product, by customer, etc., over time. 3. Orders past due to customers and invoices past due from them. In addition, any management analyses that require information like this must be accomplished by going through manual records. Therefore, RichCon's legacy system provided little help to its managers who wanted to perform quantitative analyses to support business decisions. The main steps of almost all enterprise IT projects are 1. Selection. 2. Implementation. 3. Initial use. Now refer to the RichCon case. Let's come to the first step, that is selection. Sawyer wanted to find a system for RichCon that will handle the basic functions of distribution, that is, order and inventory management, accounting, invoicing, and forecasting. Sawyer found that it is difficult to find an off-the-shelf information system that suits her needs. This was because these systems did not have the specialized functionality required by a steel service center. Some such functionalities include tracking of inventory remnants, REMs, or certifications of the steel's mechanical and chemical properties, certs. In RichCon case, the only real choices are 1. Buy an off-the-shelf package. 2. Write a separate piece of software to provide the required functionality. 3. Find a way to mimic the functionality without resorting to information technology, by implementing a manual, paper-based process, for example. In the RichCon case, Sawyer thought she found a way around this dilemma by finally identifying an information system that provides the functionality her business requires. Let's come to the second step, that is implementation. Implementation is the lengthy process of installing, configuring, and testing the software while making sure the organization is ready to use it properly. Mistakes made during system selection and the period of initial use of the technology can be corrected if the implementation was conducted properly. However, mistakes made in poor implementation cannot be corrected. The RichCon case highlights three of the most important activities that occur during implementation. 1. Testing. 2. Training. 3. Project leadership. Testing is a technical consideration, but training and project leadership are almost purely managerial considerations. Note that managerial considerations are the more significant determinants of success in IT implementations. Testing is a key feature of every substantial IT implementation. RichCon did not have a testing plan. Many of the problems RichCon experienced could have been eliminated or at least anticipated via a good testing program. Companies conduct training during implementation so that employees will be productive and competent users of the new system once it is in place. This is a particularly difficult task at RichCon, since there has been so little previous IT in place. As a result, the company's employees likely had very little understanding of how IT works within a business. The responsibility of training employees falls to managers at the company purchasing the technology. As discussed in the case, Sawyer became unimpressed with the software vendor during the implementation. She spent much of her time guiding this process herself. RichCon was not a large company. Still, the implementation was large-scale and complex. It involved most of RichCon's processes, functions, and people. This implementation activity was simply too large to be managed by a single person, no matter how dedicated and competent. Her concentration on the implementation forced her to neglect other important issues that affected RichCon's performance even before the new system went live. Let's come to the third step, that is initial use. The case highlights the depth and breadth of problems faced by RichCon immediately after the company went live with its new information system. Difficulties like these are a feature of almost all IT efforts in the period just after the new technology is put into use. The case of RichCon was unique. The company's management did not appear to be aware that initial use of the new system was very likely to be accompanied by some level of chaos. RichCon was not an organization ready to adopt a comprehensive new information system. Most of its employees had no on-the-job experience with personal computers, or, in fact, with IT of any kind. As a result, they were very likely to be confused by any new computer application, since many of them do not even know how to use computers. Experienced computer users often forget how many basic skills are required before someone is ready to begin using a specific information system. In addition to being naive users, RichCon employees may also be confused about why they are being asked to become users in the first place. It appears that employees were not taken on board and the implementation decision was made by management alone. This is a problem because implementation will be a widely shared responsibility. It is therefore important that all employees understand why a new system may be needed. This case study raises an important point. Where does the responsibility lie for ensuring that a company can make effective and efficient use of a new information technology? There are many external parties that could be blamed, for example the software vendor, other companies or individuals brought in to help with testing, training and configuration. But this misses the point. RichCon was responsible for RichCon's information system implementation. RichCon would be ultimately responsible for other projects such as new product development, capacity expansion, installation of new capital equipment, an acquisition, etc. The success or failure of the efforts rests with the company's managers. IT projects are no different. As the RichCon case shows, these projects are complex, difficult, and more risky. Managers are not absolved of their responsibility for IT efforts because they are not technologists. It is their responsibility to find the support required to help them complete the efforts. While RichCon's exact problems and sources remain unclear, it is clear that the ultimate responsibility rested with RichCon's management. RichCon tried to continue to use the new system, and did not retreat to its previous one. Eventually, the company was able to stabilize the system somewhat. However, too much damage had already been incurred. RichCon's financial and operational position was too badly hurt by the difficulties before and after the go-live date. In September 1999, the Sawyer family sold RichCon Steel to Falcon Steel, and the oldest independent company in Kansas City vanished, following the assignment questions that you should be able to solve after our detailed case analysis. 1. What do you think accounted for RichCon's difficulties in implementing its new information systems? What were the principal causes of the problems Sawyer encountered? 2. If RichCon's computer hardware had not become obsolete, would they have had to implement a new information system? 3. Why was it difficult for Sawyer to find software that would meet RichCon's needs? 4. What should Sawyer do about the poorly functioning new system? Should she pull the plug on it or continue to use it? 5. What are the characteristics of an IT project failure? How do you recognize a failure? 6. Is the RichCon case typically of troubled IT projects? What are the main reasons that IT implementations fail?